Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. We are going to have a conversation today about Black voters trending towards Trump. That's kind of a tongue twister. Black voters trending.
Jonathan and I will be pretty silent on this. We don't have a lot to say.
I had to put on the news voice in order to say.
Oh, is that what you're gonna do? Black voters trending towards Trump. It did. It made a difference.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're here today and with all of our flubs and our blooper streams from today. But we got in our social media stream. You've heard him already. He is the voice of the news. John being a place to be. John, what's good?
Hello.
And also for those of you who are watching via social media, we have with us in the social media stream, Mark, my main man, Bassett. What's going on?
Hey, now I got to come up with a new one. How's it, bra? Now that I'm living in California.
Keep it real, West Coast, right?
Yeah,
West Coast and Hawaii. Okay.
And that's actually Hawaiian. So
what is it? What's it, bro?
It's how's it, bra? It's pidgin English, kind of. It's how's it going, brother? Kind of how's it, bra?
How's it, bra? Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all in the house today. We want to thank those of you who are watching via social media. We certainly thank you for continually being a part of this conversation. And if you're watching us in Joliet, Illinois, we certainly thank you. Or listening via Joliet, you can also watch us, tune in to one of our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and other places that exist in the social media world. Oh, hey, I had a great response from someone. I didn't realize it. It didn't dawn on me that when you're doing radio and you're doing social media, that you actually have to check your social media streams, right? And actually you get messages from people who say stuff. And so I just happened to be cleaning out all of my, let me go through this. And I realized, why you got 26 messages here, you got 48 messages here. But someone said, and I think that this is a really good compliment, among the other things and funny things that they've said, they were aware that they heard the session when we were talking about being nominated for that Michigan Broadcasters Award. Yeah. And they were like Black Santa. They remembered.
That was the segment that we entered for that.
Yep. They remembered us having the conversation about Black Santa, and they were just, but what they said, and I thought this was really cool because this is really what we're striving for. They said the reason why they tune in or they catch the show, they don't always catch it, when it's going on, but they listen to it, is because it's really authentic conversation that we're having about really tough issues that people tend to sidestep and not have. So I thought, hey, someone, if there's just one person out there that got what we're trying to do here, then we have been success. So we can just go ahead and retire. They can give us all the accolades and awards. Let's put this thing to rest. We've done it. We've achieved everything that we set out to do, right?
We could get another person to appreciate it.
Two people?
Double.
Wow, double for the trouble. Well, I think that would be so exciting, but I thought that was so, I laughed when I saw that. She was like, yeah, I remember hearing this segment on Black Santa. And I had to go back and listen to it, Mark, because sometimes I just get casual in my conversation. Like we're having conversations all the time because we talk about different things. And I'm like, what did I say? And I just remember one time Mark was like, yeah, I'm going up north. And I hear Kareem on the radio say to one of his co-stars, that's some real white people stuff on there. He just said he started laughing. But I enjoy these conversations and these opportunities. So we can have a good time and we can inspire other people to tune in and to listen and be challenged to have courageous conversations. That is what it's all about. But our conversation on today is really going to be about Black voters trending towards Trump. I said it, and I made it through without getting tongue twisted. So I'm excited about that. But before we do that, I want to talk about some of the things that are hot off the press. One of those things is we know that the NCAA tournament is starting, right? And so it is now officially March Madness. We've experienced the first day of spring. Is today the first day of spring? Today, is it the 20th or the 21st?
Tuesday. 21st.
So is it
No, Tuesday was the first day of
so
spring.
so it happened on the 19th?
I
Yes.
thought it was always the 21st of a month.
I thought it was always the 20th, but I think that you're
All right,
right.
Google
Somebody-
that up. Check that out real quick.
because I'm confused.
Tuesday, March 19th, 2024.
Has it ever happened on? I thought it was always supposed to be like the 20th or the 21st.
I don't know.
Yeah, like the
I need to take these
the winter
glasses off.
solstice is always the 21st. It's always December 21st.
That's what I thought. That was the beginning of
So
the.
the spring equinox is the beginning of spring.
Okay,
And
Yeah.
that
this is
was-
what I'm gonna do, Mark. I'm gonna take these
Tuesday.
glasses off.
Oh, that's a big difference, man. Put them back on.
Before we came on, Mark told me, "Hey, I like your glasses. What did you tell me? I look sophisticated.
You look more sophisticated. Yeah.
I look more sophisticated." But then he honestly told the truth, which is what everyone else says. You look smart. But in that moment, I was feeling a little dumb because I can't remember. I know that there was March 20th. So you said
the spring equinox is
Yep.
the day of
March
spring.
19th.
right.
Because it's a leap year. Because it's a leap year. Is what it says.
Oh, you're right. That makes sense.
It's
Okay.
normally the 20th, I think.
All right, so now I have another question because we always talk about this, and I promise you guys, I'm
A
not.
little late in conversation here tonight.
No, this is this is for real. But I feel stupid asking. But I guarantee you somebody else is in the audience is listening and thinking the same thing. So leap year, right? So there's 28 days
Normally.
28 days in February.
in February.
Once every 4 years,
There's 29.
there's 29.
29.
So there was 29 this year.
There's 29 this
Yes.
year. My cousin was born on leap year day. She had her 4th birthday.
So
year.
this is something, and this sounds great. I hate that I'm saying this, and I'm admitting this to Beyonce's web, right? Beyonce's internet. So leap year, there's an extra day.
Yes. There are 366 days this year.
Doesn't that sound counterintuitive to the word leap year? It seems like leap, like we're gonna skip over a day. So like normally it would be. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we're leaping back to the proper time, I guess. Because
leaping usually implies going forward, though. So I
Who
understand
came
what
up
you're
with these
saying.
crazy words?
I mean, you're thinking some pretty
I
deep
mean-
thoughts there, Kareem. I didn't think about that, but you're right.
Am I making sense though, Mark?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Thank you. Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking like this is a little crazy.
maybe
Okay,
you should leave the glasses at home next week. This is a sidetrack we get.
that's what it is. It is the intelligentsia glasses that I have on that it's making me have these deep thought pondering questions, right? But our hearts and prayers, our thoughts and prayers are with Michigan's Congressman Dan Kildee and his family. His brother Timothy was shot and killed. Now, you're a news guy, Jonathan.
Yep.
When you first heard this, what was your thought before you got all of the details? I'll tell you, when I first heard it, my thought was like, oh my goodness, are the Trumpers gonna go out and kill his family? Kind of like, the quote was for the governor of Michigan. Because all I heard was that he was kidnapped, taken somewhere, and they was found dead. That's what I heard. What did you hear initially? You heard the whole story?
So what the first news that we got from the Genesee County Sheriff's Department was basically there was a domestic situation, then there was a homicide, then there was a car crash. We'll have more information this afternoon. Then during the afternoon news conference, basically what they said happened, according to the Sheriff's Department. So Timothy Kildee's son,
who's 27,
was involved in this domestic incident, and then he went to his birth mother's house, who apparently was not. He went to his birth mother's house, and then she was driving him to Timothy Kildee's house, the son. She was driving the son when, according to the sheriff, he jumped out of the car. The mother continued on to Kildee's house, talked with him and said, "Hey, would you help me go find him?" This is according to a witness that was also at the house, one of his other sons. And then Kildee and the suspect returned to the house without the mother. There was an argument. The sheriff says the son shot the father, stole a vehicle, went and got in a car wreck.
Wow. That's a lot. I didn't get all those details. I missed the domestic part of this, so I didn't know what was going on. But you know how folks think. They're like, "Oh my goodness," because I'm a conspiracy theorist just a little bit at times. So my mind got working in overtime, like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be crazy."
And it was his brother. It was not the congressman. I think that's
right. So it's his right. So it's his brother. Now,
this was yesterday in Michigan. This is not. I mean, in California, this is not news.
This is
Obviously,
early Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yesterday. So you said what's happening in California? It's not in the news cycles?
No, I haven't seen it. Not that I'm watching the news closely out here, but no. Yeah.
Mark, you don't watch the news closely when you're here.
That's true, but I see I will see more local news on my like Yahoo stream or Google stream because local news will pop up there. I'm seeing more California local news sitting out here. So
wow. So our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers are with them. The congressman did release a statement. Our family is grieving and is heartbroken. There are no words to describe the loss of a beloved brother and family member, especially in such a terrible tragedy. I thank the community for honoring my family's privacy during this very difficult time. The Democratic representative wrote this on his formerly known as Twitter. X, is it X social now?
It's just X.
Just X.
X.
What do you guys feel about X?
It's Twitter.
Every article you read, it says X, formerly known as Twitter. They have to actually do that. I don't know how long that'll last, but
eventually it'll switch over to X. Like if I'm talking to somebody and they say, "Oh yeah, I saw this on X," I know what they're talking about, but it kind of catches me like,
what are you talking about?
Why are you using that name?
I haven't been to the platform. I haven't used Twitter since they made this change, honestly. And I used to be on Twitter all the time, but if you really understood social media platforms, there's not much local stuff for me that happens on like Twitter is for famous people to me. It's like where the celebrities are. It's the celebrities Facebook. And then you've got IG, which is the quote unquote, I use Facebook, but you understand what I'm saying. It is the social media platform for the millennials and some of the are they Z Jenners after?
Gen Z, yep.
Gen Zs after that. And then you got the Snapchat, which are Gen Z and younger. But if you remember, Snapchat was something that we used to use. Snapchat was the devil. I always tell people Snapchat is the devil. When you can take pictures and then they delete, this is like encrypted messages where they delete and you don't see them until, and I used to use it until I realized that they can actually do screenshots.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I got a message like, "Hey, there was been a screenshot," gives you that notification. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, you got to be careful what you send here." The devil, what is going on here? But anyway, so our thoughts and prayers are with the congressman. This is something that we, wouldn't wish on our worst enemy. But what this does do, and I think that this is important, is that when things like this happen, even when, Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked. I can't remember what happened to him, but I think he got hit in the head or something. But when that happened, it just shows you that, we sometimes think that folks who have money or folks who are in our political landscapes and we see them on TV, that they don't experience the same things that we experience as regular people. And so it shows you really quickly that how nobody is averse or removed from crazy things happening. And no matter how good or how well you think someone has it off, how well off they are, that we got folks that are hurting in all of our families. We all got that one cousin, and in most Black families, we refer to him as Cousin Peaches. But one cousin Peaches, Uncle Peaches, who comes and he's going to drink a little too much. He's going to do certain things that are kind of crazy, and you're like, oh God, don't let Cousin Peaches out the house. We got company coming over. Mark, am I relating to you, Mark? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying.
Who is your Cousin Peaches, Mark?
I don't know that we have, I didn't really grow up around family as a military kid.
Right.
I saw I could probably count on two hands the amount of times I saw my cousins.
So, Mark, did you have a cousin Peaches or Uncle Peaches?
I don't. Yeah, we did.
What's his name? Brad or Bob?
Bob.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
Uncle Buck. Well, what about you, Jonathan?
I'm not naming names.
No, I mean, well, Peaches is a nickname. His name is really, Tyrone, but we call him Uncle Peaches or Cousin Peaches. Do you have a quote unquote Cousin Peach?
In my family, or do I have a nickname for it?
Yeah, I mean, what's his nickname?
I'm not giving a nickname.
They don't know who he is.
I don't have a nickname.
Do you? Okay, but you do have that uncle or that cousin that you like. Oh Lord, here we can't take him nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's a secret, but I guess that's why most of my family doesn't talk to me because I'm always putting their information out there. So, anyways,
speaking of which,
go ahead.
How your dinner with Dan went?
So we had to change it. This is the story of my life. So I had to send Dan a message that we had to reschedule.
Let's give a brief overview of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just jump into it. Why don't you, Mark?
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you who are just tuning in or you haven't heard before, I had this amazing experience of finding our roots. And what I found is that our family had this connection to the Catholic Church, in which we were sold into slavery by Catholic Jesuit priests. I felt some kind of way, as I can imagine you all felt, to keep Georgetown University open. So in that conversation, we found out that there were other Jesuit universities that existed. When I came back home, I was kind of like, okay, I'm feeling some type of way. I want to throw a brick at somebody, but I'm not understanding why. I'm feeling a little emotionally, not really so much. So I send a letter, actually an email to the Catholic diocese, get a response. Hey, you want to meet with the bishop? But Dan Osborne, who's kind of like the historian somewhat, I guess, to some degree of the church, he reaches back and says, hey, Kareem, I would love to have coffee with you. So we sit, we have a conversation, we talk, we have this amazing expression. I share with him what was going on, which was really a very cathartic moment for me because I was able to express that to someone who represented the church to me who had wronged my family. So we have this conversation. He then shares with me an amazing story of how his family has, always been standing up for civil rights. They integrated one of the first schools in Buffalo. He and his sister, white, they were integrated a black school to show the community, hey, their dad was like, this is not the end of the world. Let's do this. We have this conversation. He then shares with me how he adopted this young, beautiful black girl. And I saw a picture of her and she's absolutely gorgeous. And so we set a time up to meet. So that is kind of what Mark is asking about. How did that meeting go? But as you all understand, my life is, it's crazy. And so the day that we were supposed to meet, I had my younger brother had a friend who died and her uncle was supposed to do the funeral. And he missed his flight or he couldn't get his flight or something out of Texas to get here. And so I'm driving back from a meeting in Lansing to go meet with Dan. And I get this call in between saying, hey, can you come do a funeral? I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. But because it was my brother's friend and because the young lady flew in from Georgia just to take care of her mom, and she didn't have the things, so my heart moved. And that's what I ended up doing. So I ended up at a funeral for someone that I really didn't know. But it turns out
just at a funeral, conducting a funeral.
Yes, conducting a funeral and balloon launch and everything. But that's just, it goes with the territory of ministry. But this is the cool thing. So one of the things I found when I was there is that there was some challenges that the mother experienced. And she used to stay at the Mustard Seed Shelter, which is a phenomenal organization that helps women to get back on their feet. And my contracting company that we were working with actually worked on the expansion of the Mustard Seed Shelter. And I remembered her mother being there, actually helping to move things out of the way and make sure that we had food and whatever the things were that were there. And so it did bring me to a place. I was like, wow, I'm how life comes full circle. and you meet people sometimes in a very casual manner. You don't really take it into consideration. So this woman that I met, I think probably it's been 5 years ago now that they did that expansion. I am now standing and, eulogizing her 5 years later because her daughter is great friends with my brother. So long story short, we did not get an opportunity to have that meeting, but there was because there was another ministry call that was there. So, Mark, what are you hoping comes out? What do you think will come out of that meeting when we sit down? What are you hoping? Because I know you're a devout Catholic, and what are your thoughts been? I haven't even asked you what you thought about the whole situation. I've told you about it, but we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I had any. I mean, just that you would continue to heal, because again, I don't think people are people, and religious people of all denominations do things that are not right, but you would continue to heal, and that a relationship would develop between you and Dan that would lead to something bigger. I would love to see, and that's kind of why I try. We had that one show with Father Adam and
Right.
Bishop Coleman, to see like the Catholic Church and the Black ministers in Saginaw work more closely together to do good in the community. That's kind of what I am always hoping for.
When all of this happened, Mark, I thought about you, right? In this whole thing, because I've never really, and this may sound crazy to y'all, but I had never really been around nobody who was Catholic. That I mean, I knew friends that were Catholics, but religion wasn't a key part. They were kids, or I knew that they went to a Catholic church, but I never really had real conversations. And Mark, I knew that you were interested in your time when you were here in Michigan about really getting involved with the Catholic Church in some meaningful way and finding out what you could contribute to, the faith and as you were exploring and growing your faith. So I thought about you about having that conversation, but I was like, no, but Mark is my friend. So I can't really, if I want to be mad about something, I don't want to be mad at my friend about something that has absolutely, I want to be mad at somebody else that we can then talk about it and work through it.
Yeah.
So that I could keep Mark as a friend. So did you ever think like, wow, he hasn't really talked to me about this?
No, not really. And I got your anger. I felt it was, and so I got your anger, and I get people's anger about, religious people who do bad things, but ultimately to me, that's not what the religion in and of itself is about. And so bothered is, I think, the wrong word. I was sad that you were angry at the Catholic Church. I understood why you were angry at the Catholic Church, but it made me kind of sad. And I understand why people are angry at the Catholic Church over, sweeping priests that are pedophiles under the rug, etc. But that's ultimately not what the church and its teachings are. And those are just people who do bad things.
And so Jonathan, as a man of faith, did you get the anger, where that anger came from?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It took me a while to figure out that your anger was with the establishment and not with any particular people. So
I mean, I didn't know them.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand confusion. I understand kind of. I think confusion's the best word to say it, of your question of how could people of faith do this kind of thing. I get that, and I can see how, if you just went through that experience of walking in their footsteps, in your ancestors' footsteps like that, it could lead to anger.
Man, I can see that. I literally did. I took those same steps. Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break in just a little bit, but before we do, Mark, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Trump election fraud case, but the verdict is now
in Georgia.
So Bonnie Willis is going to stay on the case.
Yeah, just the headlines.
Just the headlines. I want to talk about that really quick when we come back. What does this mean for this particular situation? How is it going to play out? Stay, don't go away. We'll be back with more United Shades of Gray.
You're listening to United Shades of Grey on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Grey, conversations of race in America. As I was saying before we were going to take this quick break, Fani Willis is now, she's officially going to stay on this case. The judge that is manning this case, I think he's like 35, 36 years old, but super duper duper on top of this. I was really impressed with how he was handling all of the elements of this case and the courtroom. But he said that there was a look of, unlawfulness, even though nothing illegal had been taking place, but it did not look good. As he used a word that I had to look up at the time, and I can no longer remember what the word meant. And basically saying that there is an odor of lyingness is the word. The word meant lying. There's an odor of lying that is existent that is really, really bad, and that they have to take care of the situation. And that situation meant that Mr. Wade or Fani Willis had to leave. And, she's the DA, so she wasn't leaving. So later that day, Nathan Wade, her romantic interest in the situation, stepped down. So the headlines are, she continues on this case. The judge has all but said that he believes she has lied in some instance in the case. And some of those issues, for those of you who are like everyday folks who really didn't understand, because it looked like this was a Fani Willis trial instead of a Donald Trump trial. The issue was, if there was any way that she was benefiting from this case financially, then that would be a problem. And so the defense, which was Trump's attorney, said that she was benefiting from this case because they were dating and he would take her on trips. And she says, no, my daddy told me that you're supposed to have 6 months of savings and that you have, and you don't put all your money in the bank, which I think for white America, that was probably a hard thing to believe. But to me, I was like, no lies detected, because I come from a place where Black folks didn't trust banks. And so my grandparents and my entire life, my grandfather had tons of cash that were in socks that he would put inside of glass jars and hide them in the wall inside their closet.
Let me ask you something, Kareem. Do you do that?
Do I do that?
Yeah.
Well, people might stop by my house if I
If you answered yes, I was going to say, and your address is?
I might get a knock on the door. But what I will say, Mark, is that I subscribe to that understanding. So for the most part,
it is hard for white America to believe that. Yeah,
it is. And so I agree. And I was sitting there like people are like making this seem like this really big deal. But I'm gonna tell you, in most of the Black communities that I know, like, you got that relative that does that. And I am a person, even though I use the banks, I do like a certain amount. I do like to have a certain amount of liquid cash on hand that I don't put in the bank. And I'll tell you why. Nobody knew what was happening during COVID, right? Remember when COVID first hit in March of 2020? It seems like an eon ago. But when it really hit and everything shut down, do you remember the conversations and the conspiracy theories and the thoughts and somewhat of the panic and fear that everything's going to be shut down? We're going to move to martial law. What's going to happen? Did you guys have those conversations? Or
no
conversations? There were countries that were doing that, so it wasn't out of the realm. But yes, no, I remember that.
But did you hear those conversations in your people groups?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
No.
See, because rich people always know that things are going to be okay.
I remember I was going to a friend's house 2 hours away. We had a scheduled thing. It was, and none of us were worried about it. But I was going down there, and my dad said, "Be ready to stay down there for the next week or two in case they shut everything down." And you can't come back.
So you understand what that means.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll tell you, I'm gonna be very honest with y'all. One thing that I get triggered by this, and this is a black-white thing. We talk about conversations of race in America. And I'm triggered by this. This is for real. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm driving down the street, just kind of going about things. I'm trying to figure out what's happening at Gander Mountain. I'm trying to figure out what's happening at, what is it? The sports store that's Dick's Sports Store. I'm trying to figure out, like, what's happening. And so I'm like going, dang, this is crazy. So I go in, and there is a line wrapped around the store where my white hunting buddies are buying shotguns and rifles. I'm like, yo, brothers, y'all, I'm calling like y'all brothers better recognize if something goes down, y'all need to make sure that you're able to hold down your own fort. Because I'll tell you, one of the fears, and this is about the realest conversation we probably will ever have on this show. And this is real, and the folks who are Black in this stream will be able to understand what I'm saying. And white people, please understand, we have a reason to have certain fears. Okay. When I see things like that happening, I'm always thinking like, this is going to be target practice for somebody. I feel that there are certain aspects that are waiting for the U.S. to go into martial law. And we see this happening even with the conversation and the rhetoric that is stoked by this, our former president. He speaks to that fear to a lot of people. And so the first things that they do, someone in social media stream is saying, true story. The first thing that they do is they start going and buying ammunitions and guns. And I'm sitting there thinking like, well, if they have ammunitions and guns, I've seen what ammunitions and guns have done to my people historically. So I need to make sure that I have ammunitions and guns. So I'm calling cousins, play cousins, uncles, TTs, aunties, and everybody in between saying, y'all better get down to these stores because this ammunition is flying off the shelf if there is a need to protect your family. And have you guys ever heard of that conversation before? Or
No.
am I veiling some truth that you guys have never
Well,
heard?
I've heard it through the media, and but I've never, no one I have typically associated with, I've ever heard them talking that way.
Well, now you associated with me, Mark. I'm one of your bestest friends.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you that
you're the second person I know that kind of I've heard say something like that.
Well, you can't say names. I don't want you to say their name.
Yeah, it's just a friend of mine. He's a pretty right-leaning guy. He's a lot richer than I am.
I thought I knew for a second, but that changed everything.
Yeah, you don't know.
What are you thinking, Jonathan? You're looking. I see your mind clicking.
Yeah, I heard people talking like that. I had a friend who was like, hey, if things get much worse, it was a friend who was down in the 2 hours away in the Metro Detroit area who said basically, hey, if things get too much worse, my family is going up to our property in the Upper Peninsula. We're taking all of our guns, a bunch of food, and we're just going to hunker down there.
So I'm not crazy.
No.
Okay. See, people try to make me think I'm crazy out here.
But I think it is responsible to have that kind of plan.
Okay.
If the world shut down tomorrow, would you be comfortable staying where you're at right now?
Well, Mark, I'm gonna
for sure.
Would you
Shut
would
up,
be,
Mark?
Oh, hell yes. I'm looking at the ocean right now. It's warm.
Mark, I think and take this as a compliment. You grew up on the blue collar side of things, but I think your soft life has affected your ability to think about end time moments like the rest of us. We're just trying to survive.
When's the last time in this country there's been utter chaos like that? That's the way I look at it.
Okay, Mark.
How many decades ago? How many centuries ago? Like a century ago? Yeah, I don't know. So
Mark, but I take this into consideration. This is what I need you to hear me on.
Yep.
In I would say, okay, it's far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that happen that are happening again that used to happen that I never thought would happen again. Go ahead.
And we're not saying this to be, you should be afraid. No, we're not. We're not those people who are trying to stoke the fear, but it's just a matter of recognize where you're at and make a plan.
I just don't believe in preparing for something that's 0.001% and getting all worried about something that's 0.001% going to happen.
Well, okay, Mark, as a Black man in America, there are certain fears, whether you think that they are real, but they are or perceived, they exist.
I understand. You asked me from my perspective.
Yeah, no. I think
I don't worry about things that are so far fetched. Could they happen? Sure, I guess they could happen, but they're pretty far fetched. I don't
think that they're as far fetched as we think that they are.
Okay.
Someone said that they're going to lose their black card, Mark, because they're with you. The nearest beat. Okay, but I just think that, and I don't think that it, and part of this is really, it may be a socioeconomic. We always think that the man is coming to crush us down, right?
Yeah.
So we have that fear that exists. But I'm going to tell you, I was like, listen, y'all need. So we ended up with, black folks ended up with hunting rifles and Mossberg shotguns. I love my Mossberg shotgun, by the way. And black men always have pistols, and that sounds racist, but
I can't say that. Mark and I can't.
But
say
no,
that.
no, you can't say it. I mean, when people get shot in cities where violent crime is happening highly, most of it they're handguns, and so that's why politicians in urban communities are saying let's have some sensible conversation around handguns in areas where they work, because those are the things that inner city folks use, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell you, but as a kid, I'll tell you, growing up, I was used to using shotguns because that's what we used, and we practice on shooting rabbits and cans and stuff like that. Because I'm a country boy, right? I grew up in the country, and I fell in love with the city later. But those are real things.
I'm waiting for the segue to why black people are supporting Donald Trump here. So.
Okay, we're gonna get there because Donald Trump lets us have our guns. No, that's not it. But anyways, so the Fonnie Willis thing, that's kind of where we were. We're going to get to this segment. Let's talk about Donald Trump, because there is a real conversation that's happening. And I think this is, I think it's conversation. I think it's politics happening, that there's a real move for Black America, in particularly Black men. I think that's very real. That portion.
That was the last election. He's got the most votes of any, for Black men of more than any other Republican nominee ever.
9% of the population. And so, I sat there and I said to myself, like, so they're saying that we're looking at about 17% of Black women are now saying, we're going to vote for Donald Trump. And about 27% of Black men, which is like 3 times the percentage that he got the last election, are moving toward Donald Trump. And so are you guys hearing these similar numbers? Are you hearing similar things? What is your take on what we're hearing in terms of Black folks voting for Republican Donald Trump, of all people?
Well, I've seen it before. I've never thought a lot about it. I'd love to hear from our listeners, who I'm guessing there's a pretty high percentage of Black listeners, of their opinions.
Why is that, Mark? Because I'm a Black man.
Yeah.
The majority of our listeners are white America. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
People that pop up on social media mostly are not, but that's okay. But I actually think there's an equal number of like center right white people that are going to not vote for him either. Now, whether they vote for Joe Biden or an independent's a different question. But when you get people like Michael Pence, who is his vice president, basically saying he's not going to endorse him, I think you're going to see a lot of center right white people not vote for Donald Trump that did the last time as well.
Are people listening to Mike Pence though?
But that's just a data point. I think there are people that listen to Mike Pence.
Okay.
But there are a lot of ex-Trump, officials that are not endorsing him. There are a lot of center-right Republicans not endorsing him. And so I think those people would have endorsed him last time that are not endorsing him this time.
I think that they're not endorsing him. Okay, we're not going to publicly say that we're going to stand for him. But what do you think they're going to do when it's time to vote? I think they're going to vote for him.
No, I don't think they will. I think they'll do what I did the first time, which is vote for an independent.
Can you guys vote for me? Can I be right in?
Let's start a vote for Kareem campaign.
Please, I want a vote for president. I want to be able to, at the end of my life,
that we run into campaign laws in broadcasting, and it's a whole thing with the FCC.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here comes Debbie Downer ruining my chances at happiness.
He's trying to keep his job here, Kareem.
Hey, but we're outside that June date that we talked about. So, hey, for those of you who are listening, on this year's election, write in, vote for Kareem Bowen. Kareem for president. Yes, the numbers are going through the roof. You see the listeners on our social media stream; they're wild about this idea. But no, honestly, so when I look at this. And
what I think of when you just did that Dave
Chappelle
skit when he was president.
Mark, why are you always comparing me to some Black comedian? You think I'm a joke?
No, it just reminded me of that skit. I love Dave Chappelle. And
you're always talking about Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Dave is hilarious. But let's look at this really quick. If we look at this in terms of what the issues are. And this is my thoughts of what the issues are in terms of Black America. Voting rights, criminal justice reform, because every Black man and every Black community across America still remembers the person who authored that 94 crime bill, Joe Biden, which led to mass incarceration of Black folks, the dissolution of two-parent families, and a very serious economic impact with the loss of those wages of Black men. So these are issues, but this is one reason why, if people are looking at why Black men are trending towards Donald Trump, that is a huge issue. And in circles where I'm talking with Black men have not forgotten about that bill that really was disastrous to the Black community.
But
so
why did they vote for him? Why did they vote for him last time, and now they're not going to vote for him this time?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because as a community, as a people, Black people have tended to fall into this thing where we've allowed ourselves to be considered a voting bloc. We would vote the lesser of two evils based upon what the conditions were. The last cycle, I didn't buy into it. I got drug into the narrative that we have to vote the lesser of two evils, right? And so that's what we do. And so we get promised a whole bunch of things and that are never delivered upon. But I think that there is, especially this younger electorate, and these are the folks that are more likely to become Republican, more likely to vote for a Donald Trump. These younger folks in this electorate are saying, listen, we're tired of it. And we're willing to take a loss to show you something different. There was a situation that occurred here, and this is kind of like a perfect example of why we see this happening. Mark, I don't know if you know, but the current president, Mr. Biden, made a trip to Michigan, to Saginaw.
I saw that. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the mayor, a picture with the mayor.
Yeah, with the mayor. As a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with her about that today. And so, those are beautiful optics, but we all understand that he's on a brand repair tour, right?
Yep.
We saw him have chicken. And you want to talk about why Black men and Black folks are having issues and are having buyer's remorse on Joe Biden. So we saw him do a conversation where they aired this. I don't know if it was on a news program or whatever. Him sitting at the table with a single dad or something like that thing, with some 2 or 3 Black kids, and they were talking about dinner. And he brought fried chicken, and he says somebody forgot the watermelon. Which I'm sitting here thinking, like,
who
what?
Said that? Joe?
Yes.
Come
like
on.
You could not. I'm like, am I at a Donald Trump rally all of a sudden? Like, what is going on? It is just, and it was just like, I was like, this is horrific. And so I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is ridiculous. So then he comes to Saginaw, and I was very vocal about how I felt. As a matter of fact, I was contacted by 2 different campaigns. I don't think that I'm that big of a deal, but I guess when you're on the radio and you have a voice, people listen. And so they were like, hey, we would love for you to, be a part of this. And, we're going to put your name in to meet the president. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't think I'm the person to do that. And I want to be very honest, because I'm not in love with Joe Biden. I voted with him the first time there was, because I didn't have anyone else or another choice. But the things that he said that he was going to do, I think that there's some things that he's reneged on. So I'm not sure that I would be the best spokesperson. That was my words. So he's supposed to come in. I get a call from pastors saying, hey, we're going to have this sit down conversation with Joe Biden. I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling it, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me why I need to vote for him. Because I love my right to vote, right? So comes into town. There's a change of plans. He ends up in the hood, and this is where the house is, from one of the councilmen. And I love this particular councilman. We cool. We actually had a conversation the day before, or the week before. But the fact of the matter is, this councilman could not win his own election when he tried to run for that seat again. So I was kind of confused. Like, why would you rock with somebody and show up in a place where a councilman could not even win re-election in his own community? Problematic. But anyways, it's in a Black community. So he ended up at a white man's house in a Black community, never had the sit-down conversation with the Black pastors.
Yeah.
But when it comes to voting time, what are they going to do, Jonathan? They're going to say, hey, we want these pastors to come out and support. We want you to come out and vote for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden, if you don't vote for, don't vote for Joe Biden, then you ain't black. Ain't that what he told us before? So some of these things, after seeing the John Lewis voting rights bill and things of that nature, those feelings are still there. And those thoughts are still there. Now, am I going to vote for Donald Trump? Hex to the no. I'm not going to, because I think he's a racist. And that's just my personal thought. But there's a lot of quality.
And that's the thing. What do? Because if you do what I did, you're throwing away your vote if you vote for an independent. So you're really, that's the sad thing about the state of affairs here. Like, that's who you've got.
I take issue with the idea that you're throwing away your vote if you vote independent. A vote for independent is a vote against those two.
But one of those two is going to win.
I do.
The issue is one of those two is going to win.
Absolutely.
And so that was my conundrum. So I voted for an independent.
And it's going to stay that way. People think that.
You think that
I voted for an independent in 2016, and
Me
I was
too.
so repulsed by Donald Trump that I just said, like, I can't vote for an independent is in essence a vote for Trump.
Mark, and when we had that conversation about what you're going to do, and this may sound crazy, and people think I'm crazy, I appreciated you for not voting for Donald Trump, and this is why. You took into account your morality in your vote,
yep,
which I think is so important, because people say, "Oh, we got to vote against abortion," and it's a moral issue, but they don't take into consideration the morality of hate, like the immorality of hate, the immorality of being xenophobic, the immorality of being, of how you treat women, and I thought that was so I appreciate that. And someone said absolutely right. Boogeyman politics have ruined us. And I'm at a point where I'm feeling like a Z-Gen in this moment. Like, if we're going to lose and they're going to lose, let's take the ship down. We saw a stand that took place in right out in the Dearborn area with Palestinians and the Muslim community saying, hey, we're going to vote uncommitted. I am committed to vote uncommitted. And I'm not a Democrat anyways, but if they lose the election to Donald Trump, so be it, because in 4 years again, we don't think he's going to be able to. We think there will be an election in 4 years, hopefully. But in 4 years, then we'll take the stance. Like, if you're gonna listen to our policies, you're gonna listen to our agenda, and not only you're gonna listen, but you're gonna activate on these things. And I think that that's where Black people have gone wrong, because they're afraid.
And my only concern, because the reality is even when he had both the Senate and the House, he really didn't accomplish very much, Donald Trump. So politically, I agree with you. My issue is the kind of the vibe he leaves in the country, the kind of the tone because ultimately a leader sets a tone. And I'm less worried about what he does from a policy perspective than the tone he sets in the country and the kind of the divisive tone he sets for the country. And
I think that you're so true. Were you going to say something, Jonathan, really quickly?
Nope, we're good.
He's like, nope, we're good. and I think that you're true. That is so very true. As we look at it, and I think back over this past election, I literally lost friends in 2016 because of the divisive nature of the politics and the games that were being played. As we look toward the future, and as we look toward this election coming up in November, like, I'm torn. I'm torn because we don't have anyone that's aspirational to vote for. We don't have anyone that's, I think, looking at how we as Americans can be better. I don't think that we have anyone that really loves our nation more than they love themselves or the position of presidency. And it's a difficult place to be in. So Americans, we've got to do better by stop allowing them to cause us to fear and to beat one another across the head, because we've got some choices to make. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We'll see you again next week with more United Shades of Gray. God bless you. Grace and peace.